एवरीवन, नमस्ते। वेलकम टू कहानियां बाय टुकविंग्स ब्लॉग। आज का पॉडकास्ट था मिस जानू मोतियानी के साथ। शी इज द फाउंडर ऑफ रीड एंड बिलो। एंड आज की कहानी में बहुत सारी कहानियां हैं। आज की कहानी में बहुत सारे ट्रेंड्स हैं, लेसन्स हैं दैट you need to hear from her, hear from the conversation we had about not just recruitment, not just hiring in 2025, but human centric stories that in recruitment also. It is not just about technology, HR tech, AI taking interviews and stuff, but more focus is on human stories till date. Hi Janu, welcome to Kahaniya by Tookwings Blog. How are you?
Hi, Anjali. Thank you for having me. Absolutely doing great. How are you doing?
Amazing. So, we're really excited to talk to you about the recent hiring trends and AI in hiring and recruitment. But before that, at Kahania, we have this tradition that we start the podcast with one story. I mean, any of your one stories that you would like to share with our audiences that defines you.
Okay. Um, so I am a physiotherapist by academia, and I keep saying that recruitment chose me, right? When I was doing my college, my father got diagnosed with cancer, and I assumed that they should not be bearing the financial load and stuff like that. Based on that assumption, I started doing a lot of odd jobs. I was working in a BPO while doing college, then I was selling insurance and things like that, right? Before recruitment kind of happened to me, and during my early years, I still remember I had placed a very senior candidate at IBM. Okay. And he'd kind of sent flowers, and his wife called me up, you know,
Mm,
and he's still in touch. Just like I think last month he wrote to me that you'd placed me. If you remember, I'm looking for a job again. I think that was kind of very, that of course we all like validation of the work that we do,
mm,
right? But then the fact that I was able to find him the right opportunity and help him at the time when he had just returned from US and things like that kind of made a lot of difference to him and his family, right?
mm,
I think that was the first time that it hit me the responsibility of the job, you know,
mm,
uh, and the power that we have.
mm,
uh, I think it is, I mean, I'm glorifying it. People can say that, but I really feel a good recruiter can make a difference in anybody's career journey, right? So yeah, I think after that, there has been no looking back.
mm,
I got good opportunities. I was blessed to get mentored by great bosses.
mm,
And I was always somebody who was very ambitious. Sometimes
mm,
I keep telling people that ambition will be my official reason for death on my death certificate, you know. So I think I'm very ambitious, and yeah, and I almost worked in some of the biggest companies under
mm,
great people for almost 12 years before starting Reed and Willow. Uh,
mm.
and here we are today, kind of talking about how recruitment is looking like in 25.
Amazing. So, how did you think of starting your own company while you were working at the firm?
Sure, I think it was if you ask anybody a real story, I think it is not just one thing. It is always a combination of 4, 5 things, right? For me, one, I think I was very entrepreneurial. Being a Sindhi, I knew I'll do something, right? And extreme high risk taking capability and all of that. Fortunately, today I can define those things. तब तो it was very simple कि कुछ अपना करना है, right? Very
Hmm.
simple thing. और रिक्रूटमेंट ही आती थी. I was good at what I was doing, right? Uh, but before actually starting, I also looked at trends and data. So I think if you look at today, also 85% of the recruitment market, like the talent consulting market that I am in, is fragmented between big and small players. Only 13 to 15% is kind of divided between 3, 4 players, you know. So there was clear that market is not my constraint, right? There is still scope for a global player to emerge. And we had great companies in India, but every time we were talking to a lot of companies, they were relying on foreign brands who had established shops here, right? And it always kind of stuck with me. Why are not great brands going from here to global shores, right? So it was a very data-driven decision. When I started 6 years back, nobody was talking about doing IPO in the recruitment business. Very few companies that were listed, like Quest and like really big ones, right? There was this period, like a huge period, where no recruitment company got listed, right? Nobody was talking about institutionalizing the business, right? And I think it was a combination of these four goals. I mean, these four goals, we need these four data points to say that this is enough for me to kind of start on my own and dedicate the second half of my career building this. I mean, that's the journey.
That's great. So I think we'll continue the conversation, dividing it into two parts. One from which would be helpful for the recruiters who are listening to us, and the second which would be helpful for maybe someone who is giving the interviews or the employees who are listening to us, right? So let's just start with the recruiter side of it. So what do you think are the qualities should a recruiter possess in this day and time?
Sure. I absolutely look at recruitment in two parts, part art, part science. Okay. If you are a great data nerd, then you have to be a great salesperson also, right? If you are a technologist, like you adopt technology to make your life easy, then you got to be a great marketeer as well, right? So imagine imagine an infograph or a person who kind of is part artist and part scientist, right? So I think absolute uh, great sales skills, marketing skills, being data driven is very important, right? Um, Being relevant is also equally important from a technology perspective, right? AI literacy to kind of take away the redundancy of your job is very important. Um, Also, very strong consultative mindset. When you're hiring people, most of the times telling them why they should take up an offer, or you're telling the hiring manager why they should consider somebody, right? So it is, I think it is human intelligence combined with matchmaking skills that kind of shines out, right? One thing that nobody talks about in our business genuinely, so in the Western world, recruitment has kind of got its due, right? People take absolute great pride in being headhunters, right? I think in India, we are still living under the HR shadow. They're saying it's just a part of HR. Like in academia also, it's just one chapter, right? But that's not true. There are books written on recruitment practices. There are books written on psychology of human mind that can be adopted, right? The one thing that I tell recruiters is if you got to stay relevant, then as you kind of adopt AI, adopt learning also. Invest in yourself, right? Like read books that are very relevant to what we are doing, right? And take a lot of pride in what we are doing. I think that's also kind of missing. People kind of confuse this as with a cold calling job. But that's absolutely not true, at any level. Um, so I think, yeah, these 5, 6 things in combination um, can lead to potentially lethal recruiters.
That's great. So, you mentioned AI, and rightfully so. So, recently, also, like, my husband had an interview scheduled, and he told me that there was that AI taking the interview, and I was surprised that I have written about it before, but I wanted to, take a look at it, that how it actually looks and how did the interview go. So, he gave me very positive feedback about the interview. But again, what are your thoughts about AI in recruitment process? I mean, what is the feedback you are getting from employees or who is giving the interview, and also from the recruiter's end?
I think AI has definitely made us faster. I'm
Hmm.
not going to kind of deny that. And I think that's our reality also, right? But other reality of our lives is that recruitment is deeply human. AI
Hmm.
can identify patterns. AI can, do a lot of repetitive tasks.
Hmm.
But does it understand context or aspiration? I don't think so yet. You know,
Right.
that's where I think either great recruiters will rise or they'll become redundant.
Hmm.
So I keep telling this a lot internally and externally that at Reed and Willow, we kind of use tech to filter noise, but not kind of replace nuance, right? So I think AI can be a great co-pilot,
Hmm.
but can it take the lead in a highly emotion-driven area? It is yet to be ascertained because the reality of it is changing jobs or staying in a company is deeply personal and emotional.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And in fact, hiring people also, right? So can it kind of completely replace it? I don't know. It's maybe it's too early to say.
Hmm. No, obviously, even I don't think that AI should even, I mean, can, so I don't know, but it should not replace the emotional question that a human brings to the interview. That I think lacks when you're giving an interview to an
Yeah.
AI,
And
right?
like AI actually understand the reason for a pivot? Can
Hmm.
it understand the
Right.
reason behind those gaps? You
Hmm.
know, and can it still tell you, yes, this is a good bet or not? I don't think so, right? I mean, I think that day when that happens, then do we then really need humans?
Hmm. Hmm.
Is the question, right?
Right.
But it can certainly help, as I said, in pattern recognition. So you can like create tests and interview processes that, like you and me are talking, and we have a AI bot that can recognize patterns in what we are saying,
Right.
give us analysis.
Hmm.
I think those are some of the things we can use AI for.
Absolutely. And other than AI, what are the other technologies that are currently being used in the recruitment process, or what is the future of that in terms of technology?
So I think while we've disrupted the HR tech, okay,
Hmm.
completely.
Hmm.
And disrupting the HR tech is not difficult, right? Because
Hmm.
lot of things like payrolling and other things can be done by AI, simpler tasks, right? Periodic tasks, right? I think talent tech is yet to be disrupted. So there are some best companies are today kind of working on that, right? But can we say we have established player that has done it? No, right? So of course, AI though is one thing that
Hmm.
is we like it or not, we have to adopt, right?
Hmm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
but from a technology perspective, I think some things that we do is we use a lot of tools that kind of give us ratings on how a candidate journey has been. We're kind of creating something proprietary, right? It's like a credit score of candidate, like you have feeble, so like an employment score, right? That's a pilot that we are doing right now, Hannah. Uh, so yeah, I think AI for reducing redundancies in general is what we've kind of adopted. And we're doing a couple of internal pilots to see how do we kind of make most of technology at this point.
Right. Absolutely. So, if we talk about the employee side of it, what do you think are the skills in general, the skills for any industry which are relevant for anyone who is giving interviews this year?
With this disruption happening, right? Without saying, right? I think AI literacy, of course, goes
Hmm.
tops the charts, right?
Hmm.
But I think skills that require a lot of context building,
Hmm.
right? Skills that require problem solving, right? Creativity. So I think this is not the time where you can just say that I'm great at what I do, right? You will have to show the ROI as well.
Right.
Right?
Hmm.
Were you able to retain a customer? Did your work have an impact on the revenue? You know, did you expand uh, quicker than a competitor, right? I think all of those skills kind of will be assessed and needed
Hmm.
uh, for any kind of job.
Hmm.
मतलब technology में तो of course we are seeing a lot of data analytics and storytelling kind of skills, right? Where
Hmm. Hmm.
entire storytelling is based on analytics these days, right? Of course, prompt engineering world is taking up, है ना?
Hmm.
We are
Hmm.
still seeing a lot of you know, unicorn developers, which is a general, which is a glorified way of saying be a generalist. Don't be a
Hmm.
you know, at an early stage of your career, be a generalist. Be somebody who can code and develop and
Right.
deploy and test and
Hmm.
all of that, right? But overall, I think absolutely apart from whatever you're doing in AI literacy combined with highly contextual way of thinking, storytelling, problem solving, analytics is something that people will look for or organizations are looking at because for AI to kind of do contextual thinking is going to be a long shot, right? So that's where humans are expected to fill in.
Hmm. Right. So, let's say whenever you are taking an interview, what are the absolute red flags that are like these are some things that should not be in ideally in any person working in any company?
Um, so every time, to be very honest, when I take an interview, I judge people. Um, how do I put it? I kind of judge if people have if people don't, whether they have right words or the right usage or what's the weight of their words, right? So let's say their inability to take accountability.
Hmm.
Okay. Or you know, you're saying I'm very collaborative. I am a team player, but then you are not using we a lot.
Hmm.
That to me kind of is a red flag. You
Hmm.
can't say I'm very collaborative, but your entire description of your career is just about how you did it,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Okay.
So I focus a lot on that, you
Hmm.
know, people who for genuine reasons also kind of um, create a negative spin around past bosses,
Hmm.
past because nobody is perfect.
Hmm. Right.
So if your entire career, most of it you're talking negatively about people who've worked with
Hmm.
you, right? My favorite question is tell me your failure story. And anybody who says I don't have a personal or a failure
Hmm.
story or gives me a vague failure story,
Hmm.
kind is a big red flag for me. That
Right.
because we are not very introspective, right?
Hmm.
I mean, how come we don't have failures,
Absolutely.
right?
Right.
So yeah, I think lack of accountability, a lot of uh, creating defense mechanisms around yourself, you know,
Hmm.
collaboration without we,
Hmm.
not taking accountability for your failures, or like gone are the days when you want to convert your weaknesses into your strengths, you know,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
overwork. So
Hmm.
no, that we I think vulnerability overall is appreciated, right? We all burn out and kind of go through our own share of problems.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think some of those things are absolute red flags, and these are not things that your AIs can help you put in the CV,
Right.
and neither can your AI kind of help you screen in a person, right? These are factual stories of real people. So yeah.
Right. Since you brought up real stories, do you want to share a couple of real stories of interviews, any of those which like were really created an impact?
Sure. I mean, so many of them. Like I met somebody yesterday. I of course cannot name them because they're a potential customer and I don't have their permission, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was in awe with this woman. Okay, she's heading HR for one of the GCCs. Okay, has a 6-year-old son. Okay, This was not an interview, but a meeting that kind of
Hmm.
left an impact on me. I hope that's
Hmm.
over.
Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
And husband works in a government bank and is at a very good position. However, he's based at a different state, Kerala, and she was in Bangalore.
Hmm.
Um, and then she decided to pick up another great opportunity in Pune, relocated with her son.
Hmm.
She has decided to pick up another great opportunity in Hyderabad and decided to relocate with her son. Husband visits as often as he can.
Hmm.
Uh, but to me, that's just, sheer determination. Yeah.
Hmm. Right.
It was easy to kind of quit and, raise a son and
Hmm.
be with your husband,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
It had been so easy for the husband also to
Hmm.
ask her to leave and like manage the household.
Hmm.
The what stood out, both the parties making extreme sacrifices.
Right.
For a man, middle-aged man, to live alone and
Hmm.
kind of manage everything on his own, right?
Hmm.
For a middle-aged woman with a young son,
Hmm.
manage his education, her career. I mean, she's head of HR, pretty young, and she's
Hmm.
done fantabulous for herself, right? So managing the job demands and son's needs also, and then moving as per what the job demands, where the role takes you, because those are the right opportunities you don't want to miss out. I think requires a lot of determination to make it big.
Absolutely.
This tells me that money is not a factor. It's just not money. That's it,
Hmm.
right? Um, and that kind of left a huge impact on me. You
Hmm.
know, just quick. I mean, if you want to know an interview story, then I think last year somewhere I met a guy in Pune. We were interviewing him for a managerial role with us.
Hmm.
You know, and he was on some 9 months break.
Hmm.
I was just I wrote about this on LinkedIn. I just casually asked what happened.
Hmm. Hmm.
So before we even go there, let me build a persona in your mind.
Hmm.
Middle class Maharashtrian family,
Hmm.
raised by a working father and a housewife mother.
Hmm.
Oh, sorry, mother was also working,
Hmm.
but very middle class, like the background I come from, right?
Hmm.
Nothing extraordinary. Not have not gone to great schools, great colleges. Very ordinary people. You mango log, है ना?
Hmm.
And this guy said, I took a paternity break.
Hmm.
So I said, okay, like, and he said, my wife wanted to work. She was very clear that she cannot extend her maternity break.
Hmm.
And one of us had to make that choice. And I was okay to be a full-time dad
Hmm.
while she resumed her work in 6 months, right?
That's. Hmm.
And I couldn't stop but ask him how do ordinary people in from tier two cities sometimes, kind of
Hmm.
that, right?
Right.
कैसे सोचा? मतलब, generally क्या होता है? Generally तो resistance ही होता है, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
मतलब I'm talking about, यार, I'm not talking about the woke world that we live in. तो
Right.
reality तो resistance ही होता है,
Right.
right? He said, I've been raised by a mother who's working always,
Hmm.
and my father always worked.
Hmm.
And they never had a problem,
Hmm.
right? That kind of stood out for me. Ki it is a marriage of equals, right? In a very small town near Pune, Nagpur में थे वो लोग. So
Hmm.
what stood out me कि you don't need big cities. What you need is a
Right.
big mind,
Absolutely.
है ना? So these are some of the things kind of have a lasting. Of course, he was overqualified for the role that we had to offer, so we
Hmm.
helped him find the right job, you
Hmm.
know. But I ended up writing about him on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
and kind of left a huge impact on me.
Amazing. That's very sweet. So, as we are talking about LinkedIn, I think I am active on LinkedIn and most of us are active on LinkedIn. So, do you think that social media profiles, or let's say LinkedIn profile, is sort of a filter for recruiters these days? Or do they look at it? How do they look at it? What is the lens are they looking at when they're looking at LinkedIn profile?
Uh, if you ask me genuinely, Uh,
Hmm.
uh, it depends on the role also you are
Hmm.
into. है ना? I can give you a very generic answer saying that social media is your mirror, and
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
course it is. But
Hmm.
that does not mean if you're not writing on LinkedIn, you don't have depth,
Hmm.
right? It's the equivalent of saying that you don't have Instagram followers, that doesn't mean you have anything to offer to the world,
Hmm. Right.
right? So, of course, I mean, of course, it is a mirror of who you are, what your thinking is, and it is doing, a fantabulous job for AI to kind of, recognize a pattern about you. But reality of that pattern lies with you, right?
Right.
Because we know there is perception management and reality. All of us are aware of that, है ना? So, yeah, I think based on the job that you are in many ways, LinkedIn can become a mirror, right?
Hmm.
Um, it can help you spot right opportunities, okay?
Hmm.
Not just jobs, but in terms of network also. Uh,
Hmm.
but I mean, it is not the absolute, honestly, end. Of course, a lot of times I look at a dead LinkedIn and I think that, this person is kind of coasting, right? And
Hmm.
in today's market, coasting is dangerous, right?
Hmm.
But I think that's where I wear my human hat and kind of like if I see a dead LinkedIn profile of a sales professional, I'll judge them, right? But if I see a dead LinkedIn profile of a developer,
Hmm.
I'm
Right.
judged, so yeah,
Right.
that's how I look at things.
Right. So, apart from that, what are the other factors that we employees should look forward to, or in 2025 when they are going for interviews?
I think the kind of surround in the kind of um, society we are in right now, the biggest trap is thinking that you need to learn everything,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? You
Right.
see an Instagrammer who can cook, who's well dressed,
Hmm.
can talk, right? Uh,
Hmm.
that's selling,
Hmm.
right? But I still think that don't fall for this trap. Pick up one thing, learn it deeply, learn to articulate and articulate how it adds value, you know, to your job, to the organization where you are a part of, and create curiosity.
Hmm.
Right? I think you should be very intentional with what you're doing, right?
Hmm.
Because to me, relevance isn't about being everywhere. It's about being sharp where it matters,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So, I mean, that's something that I'd suggest.
Right. And overall, what do you see in the recruitment industry apart from technology? What are the other trends that you see this year?
So, with government being very vocal about becoming a manufacturing superpower
Hmm.
or in the next 5-10 years, right? We see a lot of activity happening in that sector.
Hmm.
So you will see a lot of pharma companies, manufacturing companies setting up hubs in GCCs
Hmm.
in India, right? So of course that's kind of becoming big, right? The entire attention economy is also becoming big, right? So you have agencies who are now managing Instagrammers, managing YouTubers,
Hmm.
which did not exist, right?
Right.
So I think that's kind of a new segment that has come up
Hmm.
of late, right?
Hmm.
Um, so apart from technology, manufacturing, pharma,
Hmm.
uh, and R&D in India,
Hmm.
right? Lot of traction happening in those sectors, and from a banking perspective, you see Indian banks now setting up their GCCs, right? So lot of action happening there, and of course the media and other things, social media has opened up new avenues, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. And with the entire D2 C economy taking a new turn,
Hmm.
right? That's also becoming big. So You see a lot of people kind of now taking a lot of courage to build their B2C brands, which maybe like people like me would have thought a lot, right?
Hmm.
But now I think thanks to social media and the visibility that we have, people are willing to take those risks. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of activity happening there, right?
Hmm.
Um, Real estate, um,
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, I was reading a report that says that an average Indian today is buying a house that's not less than 2.5, 3 crores, a middle class average
Hmm.
Indian house, you know. Um, there's a boom there, right? So that's changing a lot of things, right? A lot of things happening between the Dubai real estate and India real estate, right? A lot of people are saying, hey, you know what? I'll not buy something in India. Let me open up an Airbnb in Dubai. Let me buy something in Dubai. So that's also a lot of transition of talent in real estate is happening there,
Right.
right? Yeah, I think those are the things that are on my mind.
Right, right. So this is about the industries we spoke about, but if we talk about the part-time jobs or the full-time jobs, the type of jobs which are going to happen this year more. So what are your thoughts on that? Remote, hybrid, part-time, or
I think we will kind of move to office. That trend we are seeing, right? And a lot of reasons. Um, so remote, yeah, I think it will stay hybrid for some more time,
hmm.
at least for the next 2, 3 years. But complete work from home might not happen. At least in countries like in societies in countries like India, it might not happen, right?
Hmm.
Um, पार्ट टाइम आई थिंक पार्ट टाइम वाज ऑलवेज बिग ऐसा नहीं था कि पार्ट टाइम वाज नॉट हैपनिंग राइट people are taking it seriously now, like Indian context also, you know. So a lot of people that we talk to are taking open to take up remote opportunities because now they're not worried about having a pay slip, having a brand on their resume, right? Now it's all about the kind of work that I'm doing. How is it contributing to my financial income, financial health,
Hmm.
and how is it contributing to my intellectual health?
Right.
So that trend will actually continue to build. I really feel that we'll see a lot of change there, where Indians, given their intellectual capacity and the way we think and the way we look at technology at least,
Hmm.
now be open to take up remote jobs and leave the security of a full-time job or a perceived full-time job.
Hmm.
That will actually continue to grow, in my opinion.
Right. So we spoke about the trends in recruitment, and from both ends, we talked about a little bit. But as a founder of Reed and Willow, how we want to understand or we want to know from you, I mean, what has your journey been like being the founder? What have been the good things or, some challenges you would like to share with us?
One thing is for sure, entrepreneurship is not for everybody,
Hmm.
and there's nothing wrong with it, right? uh, the journey actually is still a journey because we've not I still think we've not built anything to our full potential. We
Hmm.
are still work in progress
Right.
company, right? Uh, we've seen very early success. We've been profitable, bootstrapped from day one, right? um, we certainly intend to do 100 crores in the next 3 years. We're moving towards that. Personally, for me, it is at the end of the day, it is fulfilling.
Hmm.
At the beginning of the day, it can be different. I have a lot of as a founder, I think everybody has a lot of self-doubt, right? A lot of questions around being in a services business when the world is talking about product technology,
Hmm.
will it disrupt us? So there's so much noise, right? So you wake up to noise, and then you speak to a few customers, a few candidates, and a few team members, and you go back to sleep in calmness, right? So yeah, I mean, I think the journey has been absolutely fulfilling, right? God has been kind. People around me have been kind. I think, and that's what you look for, right? I mean,
Right.
that's all you can ask. I really think so.
No, absolutely. So I think we would sum up the conversation here with one last thought you have for all of us listening.
Um, I think if a woman is listening, who's aspiring to start something,
Hmm.
then I would tell them to do it, set clear expectations, don't chase work-life balance,
Hmm.
always about work-life prioritization. So go declare, tell your family, in-laws, husband that you want to do this, seek
Hmm.
right support, build an ecosystem, right? You're not going to get awards for being a great super mom.
Hmm.
Those awards don't exist, right? Uh, don't be a great super mom. Be a honest mom who is vulnerable, can break down, and still build, right?
Hmm.
Uh, if um, if a recruiter is listening, uh, take a lot of pride in what you do.
Hmm.
Don't just think it's just a job, right?
Hmm.
Um, Change that narrative and everything will fall in place, right?
Hmm.
I think if a man is listening, um, uh, men can also break down and be vulnerable. I think they don't have a lot of forums, so it's okay, right? Accept that. Build an ecosystem and don't live under the burden of responsibilities forever, right? You might want to break free, nothing wrong with that, right? Um, okay, bas, ho gaya. I covered all the
Yeah. I
I
think
covered
those
all
words of
aspects.
lovely
Yeah.
thoughts to end the conversation on. Amazing. It was lovely speaking with you, Jan, today. And we look forward to having more such conversations because it was so heartwarming. It was not just about trends and industry, it was all about stories, and that matters.
Think we're just people who create a lot of data, and then we say let's be data driven. Let's
Right.
be human. I think let's be more human.
Absolutely.
ठीक है, done है जी.
Thank you so much.
For having me.
Thank you.